This woman, her name is Brittany. She's 24 years old. She destroyed her best relationship she never had with just one sentence. And she learned the hardest way possible that you can't put someone on hold while you explore your options and expect them to be waiting when you're finally ready. What she said to him that night changed everything. And by the time she realized what she'd lost, it was already too late. Hi, everyone. I'm Emma, and welcome back. Today's story is about timing, choices, and the devastating consequences of taking someone's feelings for granted. So settle in, because this one hits different. 4 months. That's how long Brittany had been free from Trent, her controlling, jealous ex-boyfriend who made her life miserable. After finally escaping that toxic relationship, she made herself a promise. No more jumping from one serious thing to another. No more losing herself in someone else. This summer was going to be about her. Freedom, fun, living life on her own terms. Around that same time, a guy named Randall ended things with his own girlfriend. Randall had been part of Brittany's friend circle for years, but they'd never really connected one-on-one. They were just two people who showed up to the same parties, laughed at the same jokes, existed in the same orbit. But now they both had time. Now they both needed someone who understood what it felt like to pick up the pieces after everything falls apart. It started innocently enough. Coffee dates where they'd vent about their terrible exes. Happy hours that stretched longer than they should have. Movies at his apartment that somehow always ended with them talking until 2 in the morning. Before either of them realized what was happening, they were texting constantly. 4 times a week turned into almost every day. He had this dry, sarcastic humor that caught her off guard every single time, and the way he listened, truly listened. Not just waiting for his turn to speak. It was everything she didn't know she needed. Her best friend Paige saw it before Brittany did. "Girl, that man is falling for you," she'd say, watching them from across the room at parties. But Brittany would brush it off. They were just friends, 2 people healing together, nothing more. Except late at night, she'd catch herself thinking about the way his face lit up when he laughed, or how good he looked in his work clothes, or how safe she felt when they were together. But she'd push those thoughts away. She wasn't ready. She had plans. Summer was coming, and she had every intention of being young, wild, and completely free. Then came the night that changed everything. They were at his apartment, sprawled on his couch watching some crime documentary neither of them was really paying attention to. Thai food containers sat empty on the coffee table. A couple of beers made everything feel warm and easy. She was showing him her dating app, laughing at the ridiculous profiles she'd found. They were sitting closer than usual. She could feel the heat from his body. And then the laughter stopped. But they were still looking at each other, and the air between them shifted into something electric, something dangerous. He leaned in. She let him. The kiss was everything she'd been afraid it would be, surprisingly good, dangerously right. When they pulled apart, his face was serious, vulnerable in a way she'd never seen before. "I think I'm falling for you, Britt." Her stomach dropped like an elevator with cut cables. Part of her, a small part, felt thrilled, but the bigger part, terrified, trapped. She'd just gotten free. Summer was right there, waiting for her. All those plans, all that freedom she'd promised herself, flirting with strangers, dancing on tables, living the life she couldn't live when she was tied down. So she told him the truth. At least what she thought was the truth. "I think I could fall for you too," she said, watching his face light up with hope. "But I'm not ready. I need to have my hot girl summer. You know, get the wild phase out of my system. But maybe after that, at the end of summer, we could try for real?" She thought she was being mature, honest, setting boundaries. She expected him to appreciate her transparency, maybe even wait for her because what they had was special, right? Instead, his face crumbled. He tried to hide it, said he understood, but everything changed that night. The warmth between them cooled into something polite and distant. His texts took hours instead of minutes. Their 4 times a week hangouts dropped to maybe once, and only in groups, surrounded by other people like a buffer zone. She'd watch him laugh with their mutual friends, but with her? He was careful, cordial, like someone slowly backing away from a fire. Brittany told herself it was fine. He just needed time to process his feelings. Meanwhile, she had a summer to live. She downloaded every dating app. She planned girls' nights with Paige. By June, she was living her dream. Brunch dates, rooftop bars, beach days with guys whose names she'd forget by the following weekend. She was having fun. Exactly what she wanted. Except sometimes, after another mediocre date with another forgettable guy, she'd find herself wanting to text Randall about something funny that happened. When they'd see each other at group hangouts, she'd try to tell him about her dating disasters, expecting him to laugh the way he used to. Instead, he'd just nod, change the subject, slip away at the first opportunity. She didn't realize how much she missed their connection until she saw him at their friend's barbecue, chatting up some blonde woman who laughed at everything he said, who touched his arm like she had every right to. Brittany felt something burning in her chest, something she refused to name. This was what she wanted, wasn't it? Both of them single, having fun, living their best lives. So why did watching him smile at that woman the way he used to smile at her make Brittany want to march over and remind him about their end-of-summer plan? She didn't, though. She just downed her drink and found someone else to talk to, pushing down the uncomfortable feeling growing in her gut. Summer rolled on. Brittany kept dating, kept swiping, kept searching for something that never quite materialized. One guy was obsessed with his car. Another wouldn't stop talking about cryptocurrency. Most just wanted something physical with minimal emotional investment. Meanwhile, Randall seemed to be thriving. He was hiking, trying new restaurants, taking guitar lessons, all those things he'd talked about doing for years but never had time for, and he was seeing someone. Haley. Not officially, but everyone could see where it was heading. They'd arrive at gatherings together, sit together, leave together. The writing was on the wall, but Brittany refused to read it. At a pool party, she finally cornered him by the drinks table, timing it perfectly for when Haley went to the bathroom. "I thought you weren't into relationships right now," she said, trying to sound casual but hearing the accusation in her own voice. "I wasn't looking for one," he replied simply. "Sometimes things just happen naturally." "So what's so special about her?" He sighed, and she could see his patience wearing thin. "Brittany, what do you want from me?" She faltered. "Summer's almost over." He looked at her for a long moment, and she saw something final in his eyes. "Yeah, it is." Then he grabbed a beer and walked back to where Haley was now chatting with Paige, and Brittany stood there realizing the terrible truth. Randall had moved on. The deadline that meant everything to her meant nothing to him anymore. Labor Day weekend arrived, the unofficial end of summer. Brittany sat scrolling through Instagram, seeing pictures of Randall and Haley at some lake house with friends, and the panic set in. She texted him, asking to meet for coffee. To her surprise, he agreed. She spent an hour getting ready, trying to look effortlessly beautiful. When she arrived at the coffee shop, he was already there in a navy button-down that made his eyes pop. She sat down, heart pounding, and launched into the speech she'd been rehearsing all morning. "Remember back in May when you told me how you felt and I said I needed the summer? Well, it's after summer now, and I've been thinking about us a lot. I think I'm ready for something real with you." The silence that followed felt like drowning. He looked down at his coffee, then back at her, and she saw the answer in his eyes before he even spoke. "Brittany, I don't feel that way about you anymore." Even though she'd sensed it coming, the words still felt like a physical blow. "What do you mean? Because of Haley?" "No, not because of Haley. This happened before her." He leaned back in his chair. "When you told me you wanted to wait until after your phase, something changed for me. It made me see things differently." "But I was just being honest." Her voice rose, drawing stares from nearby tables. "And that's the problem," he said quietly. "You expected me to just wait around while you dated other people, then come running when you decided you were ready. That's not how I want to start a relationship. That's not fair. I never asked you to wait. You didn't have to ask. You assumed I would." He sighed heavily. "Look, I value our friendship, but romantically, I've moved on. And yes, I'm seeing Haley now." Her throat tightened. "So that's it? I missed my chance because I wanted a few months of freedom?" "You didn't miss a chance. You made a choice." He checked his watch. "I should get going. I have plans." As he walked out, leaving her with cold coffee and wounded pride, Brittany sat there in disbelief. She was supposed to be the one who got to decide when their timing was right. How dare he move on before she was ready for him? Over the following weeks, Brittany tried everything to get his attention back. Random texts about things that reminded her of him, showing up at places she knew he'd be. One night, she even drunk called him, which she immediately regretted. He was always polite but distant, making it crystal clear he wasn't interested in anything beyond basic friendship. Then she had what she thought was a brilliant idea. Their friend Lisa was throwing a birthday party, and Brittany knew Randall would be there. She invited Jake, a hot trainer from her gym, as her date. Perfect for making someone jealous, right? At the party, she made sure to laugh extra loud at Jake's jokes, positioned herself in Randall's line of sight constantly. But Randall seemed completely unbothered, focused entirely on Haley and their friends. Her plan was failing spectacularly. The next morning, hungover and desperate, Brittany did something she's still ashamed of. She found an old photo of her and Randall from the previous summer, posted it with a caption about missing simpler times, and tagged him. Within an hour, her phone buzzed. "Please take that down." "Why? It's just a throwback pic," she replied, playing innocent. "You know why, Brittany. Haley saw it and now I have to explain." She reluctantly deleted the post, but felt a twisted satisfaction knowing she'd caused problems between them. Maybe if things got rocky, he'd remember what they could have had. That small victory died quickly. The following weekend, Instagram showed her something that made her stomach drop. Randall and Haley at her sister's wedding, not just as dates, but in multiple photos looking completely in love. One showed them slow dancing, his arms around her waist, her head on his shoulder. They looked like they belonged together, like they were writing a story that didn't include Brittany at all. She threw her phone across the couch. This wasn't supposed to happen. The plan was for her to have her fun, then they'd get together when she was ready. How had everything spiraled so far out of her control? In a moment of weakness, she texted him again. "Can we please talk? For real this time. I miss you." When they met, his expression was guarded, arms crossed defensively as she sat down. "I just don't understand how you could move on so quickly. We had something special." He shook his head slowly. "We had a friendship that could have been more, but you wanted to date other people first." "I wanted to be ready for you," she insisted desperately. "And that was your choice to make," he said evenly, "just like it was my choice not to wait around as your backup plan." "You weren't my backup." "Really? Because from where I was sitting, it felt exactly like that. You wanted to keep me on the hook while you explored other options." There was an edge to his voice now. "Do you know how that felt? To hear you basically say I'm good enough to date, but not before you see what else is out there first?" She struggled to find words that didn't sound hollow. "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" He leaned forward. "I needed someone who was sure about me. Haley was sure from day one. No games, no waiting periods, just genuine interest. That's the difference, Brittany. She chose me first, not as an afterthought when nothing better came along." After he left, Brittany sat there feeling like her entire world had collapsed. In her mind, Randall had been a sure thing, someone who would wait because he'd fallen for her so hard. The idea that he could just stop having those feelings, that he could look at her declaration and decide she wasn't worth waiting for, it shattered everything she'd believed. Over the next few days, she spiraled. She stalked their social media, analyzing every photo, every comment. She texted mutual friends with not-so-casual questions about their relationship. She even drove by his apartment once just to see if Haley's car was there. It was. When she showed up at Paige's door after midnight, wine-drunk and rambling, her best friend finally snapped. "You've got to stop this. You're acting crazy. I just don't get what he sees in her. She's so boring." "She's not boring," Paige said firmly, taking the wine glass from Brittany's hand. "She's stable and kind and not playing games with him." She paused. "Brittany, as your friend, I need to be brutally honest. You had your chance with Randall, and you blew it. The way you're acting now is making everyone uncomfortable." "Everyone? Who's everyone?" Paige sighed heavily. "The group chat has been blowing up. Dominic said you cornered him asking for details about their relationship. Lisa said you tried to get her to not invite Haley to her party. It's getting out of hand." Brittany grabbed her purse and stood up, anger flashing. If you're all so worried, maybe you should be better friends instead of judging me. Halloween was approaching, and Dominic was hosting his annual costume party. Brittany decided this would be her last shot to show Randall what he was missing. She spent way too much money on a costume designed to turn heads, then arrived fashionably late to find the apartment packed with people. She spotted Randall immediately, dressed as some video game character, standing by the kitchen with Haley in a matching couple's costume. 3 drinks gave her the courage she needed. When Randall was finally alone, getting a beer, she made her move. "Hey, stranger," she said, touching his shoulder. "Oh, hey, Brittany. Nice costume." She moved closer, alcohol making her bold. "Remember last Halloween? When we did those awful tequila shots and I got sick?" He nodded, a hint of a smile appearing. "And I held your hair back." "You always took such good care of me," she said, touching his arm. "I miss that. I miss us. I made a mistake, Randall. I should have chosen you from the beginning." He gently removed her hand from his arm. "You're drunk." "I'm just being honest. Isn't that what you wanted?" She stepped closer. "The truth is, none of those guys compared to you. Not one." "Please stop," he said firmly. "This isn't appropriate. I'm with Haley now." "But do you love her? Like, really love her?" She heard the desperation in her own voice. "Because I think I might love you." "That's enough." His voice was sharp now. "You don't get to say that to me, especially not now." "Why not? It's how I feel." "Because it's not real," he said. "You only think you love me now that you can't have me. That's not love. That's just wanting what you can't have." Tears built in her eyes. "That's not true." "Isn't it? You had your chance, Brittany. You chose your phase over starting something real with me. That was your decision." "And I regret it," she cried, loud enough that people nearby turned to look. "Yes, you do," he agreed, his voice low. "But your mistake wasn't choosing the phase. It was thinking I'd just be waiting at the end of it." She saw Haley approaching, concern on her face, and something in Brittany snapped. "She's not right for you," she said bitterly. "She's boring and safe. You're settling." His expression hardened. "Don't insult her because you're upset with yourself." Before he could say more, Brittany blurted out to Haley, "Did he tell you he was in love with me first? That I was his first choice?" The room seemed to go quiet. Haley's face fell and Randall looked absolutely furious. "That's enough," he said, taking Haley's hand. "We're leaving." "Of course you are." Brittany laughed bitterly. "Run away from the truth." He leaned in close, his voice barely audible. "The truth is, I dodged a bullet. And right now, you're proving it." As they pushed past her toward the door, Dominic appeared at her side, gripping her arm. "Outside, now." He practically dragged her to the balcony. "What the hell was that?" "He needed to hear the truth," she slurred. "No, you needed to cause a scene because you can't handle rejection." As she waited for her Uber on the curb, drunk and angry and desperate, Brittany did something unforgivable. She opened Instagram, found a photo of Haley and Randall, screenshotted it, and texted Randall a complete lie, insinuating something had happened between them while he was still with his ex. It was her last card to play, a bomb designed to destroy what they had. She woke up the next morning to the worst hangover of her life and overwhelming dread. What had she done? When Paige called that evening, her voice was cold. "Brittany, what were you thinking? Do you have any idea what you've done?" "I was drunk and stupid. I know. I'll apologize." "It's too late for that." Haley was devastated, thinking Randall had cheated with you. He had to convince her it was a lie. Which it was, right? "Yes," Brittany admitted quietly. "Nothing ever happened. I just wanted to hurt them." "Well, congratulations. Mission accomplished." The disgust in Paige's voice was palpable. "Randall showed everyone the text. Everyone knows what you did." The next few weeks were the loneliest of Brittany's life. No invitations to group gatherings. Her social media showed all her friends having fun without her. Randall had blocked her on everything. Even Paige kept her distance. One rainy Sunday, she was grocery shopping when she turned a corner and nearly crashed carts with Randall and Haley. They were shopping together, their cart full of ingredients for a meal they'd cooked together. domestic and comfortable. They all froze. The awkwardness was suffocating. "Hi," Brittany said softly. "Hey," Randall replied neutrally. She wanted to say something, anything. But what could she possibly say in a grocery store that would make up for what she'd done? "We should go," Haley said to Randall, turning her cart. He nodded but hesitated. "Take care of yourself, Brittany," he said finally, not unkindly but with unmistakable finality. Then they walked away, leaving her standing alone, and she knew in that moment she'd lost him forever. A week later, scrolling through Instagram, she saw a photo that made her heart stop. Randall on one knee, proposing to Haley at what looked like her family's lake house. The caption read, "She said yes. Can't wait to spend forever with my best friend and the love of my life." That evening, Brittany called her mom, voice breaking. "I really messed up, Mom." She told her everything. The initial rejection, the summer of meaningless dates, the growing jealousy, the horrible lie that cost her all her friends. "I don't know who I am anymore," she admitted. "I became this person I don't even recognize. All because I couldn't have what I wanted when I wanted it." "Sometimes we have to lose everything to see ourselves clearly," her mom said gently. "The question is, what are you going to do now?" Brittany started therapy the following week. It wasn't easy, confronting all her ugly thoughts and behaviors. Her therapist gently challenged her tendency to see herself as the victim. "It sounds like you had difficulty accepting the consequences of your choices," her therapist observed. "You wanted freedom, but also wanted Randall to wait for you. When he chose not to, you felt entitled to sabotage his happiness." 6 weeks into therapy, Brittany received a wedding invitation from Dominic with a handwritten note. "We've been friends too long to throw it all away. If you're in a better place, we'd love to have you there." It was an olive branch, small but significant. When she met Dominic for coffee, he studied her carefully. "You seem different, more grounded." "I'm trying to be," she admitted. "I've been in therapy, really working on myself. What I did was inexcusable. I see that now." "Randall and Haley will be at the wedding," he warned. She took a deep breath. "I figured. That's okay. I owe them both a face-to-face apology, but I promise I won't make a scene." By the time Dominic's wedding arrived in April, Brittany felt steady enough to attend. She kept to herself at first, chatting with acquaintances, staying on the fringes. Eventually, she spotted Randall and Haley across the room, laughing with friends. Haley's engagement ring caught the light when she gestured, a visible symbol of the future they were building together. During a quiet moment, Brittany approached their table. "Hi," she said quietly. "I won't stay long. I just wanted to say congratulations on your engagement and that I'm truly sorry for how I behaved. What I did was horrible, and neither of you deserved it." "Thank you," Haley said after a moment, her voice cool but not unkind. Randall nodded but said nothing. "That's all. Enjoy the rest of your evening." She turned to go, not expecting forgiveness. "Brittany," Randall called as she walked away. She turned back. "I hope you're doing well," he said simply. "I'm getting there," she replied with a small smile. "I really am happy for you both." Later that night, watching couples slow dance, Paige slid into the chair beside her. "Proud of you," she said, bumping Brittany's shoulder gently. "For what?" "I saw you talking to Randall and Haley. That couldn't have been easy." "It wasn't," Brittany admitted, "but it was necessary." As Brittany drove home that night, she thought about that conversation with Randall back in May, nearly a year ago. "I'm not ready to date until after my phase." Such simple words that had set off such a devastating chain of events. She'd been so certain she knew what she wanted, so convinced she could control when and how things would unfold. She'd wanted freedom without consequences, options without commitment, Randall's heart without respecting his choices. The truth was, he'd been right to move on. Not because she wasn't worth waiting for, but because her attitude had revealed something fundamental about how she viewed relationships as things that existed to serve her needs on her timeline. She'd never considered that by asserting her right to explore. She was telling him he wasn't enough for her right then. She'd expected him to accept being her backup plan, and she'd been genuinely shocked when he refused. She pulled into her apartment complex and sat in the car, watching the moon through her windshield. Her mom's words came back to her. Sometimes we have to lose everything to see ourselves clearly. She had lost everything. Randall, her friends, her self-respect. But in that loss, she'd found something unexpected. The beginning of wisdom. The understanding that other people's feelings matter as much as her own. That timing is everything in relationships. That actions have consequences that can't always be undone with apologies. Most importantly, she'd learned that while she couldn't change the past, she could choose what kind of person she wanted to be going forward. Not the entitled girl who expected the world to wait for her, but someone who recognized her mistakes and was determined not to repeat them. So what's the lesson here? It's simple but painful. You can't put someone on hold while you figure out if there's something better out there, then expect them to be waiting when you're ready. Love doesn't work on your timeline alone. Respect people's feelings in the moment, or you might lose them forever. And if you do lose them, own it. Learn from it. Become better because of it. If this story resonated with you, or if you've learned something from Brittany's mistakes, please hit that like button. Share this video with a friend who might need to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another story that might just change your perspective on relationships, choices, and consequences. Remember, everyone deserves to be someone's first choice, not their backup plan. Until next time, this is Emma reminding you to choose wisely, love genuinely, and always respect the hearts of others. Thank you for listening.